Verse 23, O the Isus ipen afto, to e dinase pistevse, panta dinata to pistevonti. And Jesus said to him, the thing, if you are able to believe. All things are possible to the one trusting. Now, you can see this 4100 appears in two different places. In here, in one place I have believe. In the second place, it's trusting. But there is a difference. We'll get down in verse 42, and I'll show you what this difference is. The thing, if you are able to believe. And then he uses it in slightly a different way. And like I said, we'll get to 42 and we'll bring that out. In verse 24, Ke evtheos kraxis opatir tu pediu, metadakrion elege. And immediately the father of the child crying out, with tears said, Pistevo, Kyrie, voithi mu ti apistia. I believe, O Lord, help my unbelief. Could be trust. I trust, O Lord, help my untrusting. Verse 25, Idon the o Isus oti epicentreki oklos. And Jesus, beholding that the multitude or the crowd ran together, epitimisthe to pneumati, to akatharto. He reproached the unclean spirit. Now here it says it's an unclean spirit. And what looked like an epileptic seizure, it could be epilepsy. I always question whether these spirits that have something to do with being in our DNA, with the directions or the instructions that our DNA has. Why are there things within our DNA that want to destroy their host? With like metastasizing skin cancers and other things, or these things that have come inside of a person. And here he reproached it's a spirit, an unclean spirit, akatharto. We had that in the earlier, when you can go back and look at that in the spirit list. And he said to legon afto, saying to it, to pneuma to alalon ke kophon. There is the speechless and mute. So it's related to an unclean spirit. Now, so does that mean everybody that has epilepsy is an unclean spirit, that they're unclean? Well, the spirit's unclean. Doesn't mean the person's necessarily unclean, but he has an unclean spirit, something that's in him to destroy the person and here to make him speechless and mute, I believe. Ego si epitasso, I give orders to you. Exelthe, exaftu, come out, forth out of him. Ke miketi iselthis is afton, and no longer should you enter into him. So this is a command in the imperative. You can move the exclamation to the end if you'd like. Verse 26, Ke kraxon, and having cried out, Ke pola sparaxon afton, and greatly throwing him into a spasm, exilthe, it came forth. Ke ageneto osi nekros, and he became as dead. Oste polus legin, oti apethan, and many said, so as for many to say that he died. O the Isus kratisis afton tis hieros, and Jesus, having held him by the hand, igiren afton, raised him, just as he raised the Talitha Kumi, the young girl, rise. And he touches with his hand. Ke anesti, and he rose up. Verse 28. Ke iselthonta afton is ikon, and in his entering into the house, imathite aftu epiroton afton kat idian oti. His disciples responded to him in private that, Imis uk idinith thimen ekvalin afto, and we were not able to cast it out. And Verse 29, Ke ipen avtis, and he said to them, interesting, tuto to genos, and otheni dhinate exalthin. This kind by nothing is able to come forth. Imi and prosevki ke nistia, except by prayer and fasting. Now, apparently the disciples were unable to do it, and then he says it's able to come forth by prayer and fasting, and probably no one ever living did more praying and fasting than our Lord did. And of course he had the power, but this is what he's telling these men, the disciples. Now, who's to do the prayer and the prayer and the fasting, as he's saying? The person that's trying to cast it forth, or the person that has this condition, or both? Quite a good question. Verse 30, Ke akithan exalthontes paraporevonto diatis Galileas. And from there, having gone forth, they passed through the Galilee. I leave out the because it's generally just through Galilee. Ke uk ethelen inatis gano, and he did not want that any should know, for whatever reason he had. Verse 31, Edithas gegar tus mathitas aftu, for he taught his disciples. Ke elegan aftis oti, and said to them that, O eos tu anthropu paradidhote, is hieras anthropon. The Son of Man is delivered up unto the hands of men. Ke apoketenusin afton, and they shall kill him. Ke apoktanthis, and having been killed, ti triti imera anastisate, the third day he shall rise up. In verse 32, Ide ignon torima, but they knew not the saying, Ke ephovunto afton epirotise, and feared to ask him. It's interesting here that they didn't know what he's talking about, but yet we see later that the enemies of the Lord knew exactly what he was talking about when he said he's going to rise up after the third day, because it mentions that they put a guard around in front of the tomb and set seal on the stone that was covering the opening. So the enemies knew, but yet his disciples, they didn't see this. It was hidden from them. Ignoon, we have the word ignorant, 50 as a derivative. Verse 33, then it changes. He goes into Capernaum along the sea. Ke ilthan is Capernaum, and he came into Capernaum. Ke inti ikia genomenos epirota aftus. And being in the house, he asked them, Ti enti otho prosiaftus dialogises they. What were you reasoning in the way, the otho, odometer, otho, among yourselves? Verse 34, Ide isiopon, and they were silent. Prosalilus gar dialekthison inti otho, and for with one another they were reasoning in the way, who was greater, tis meson, and into this foolish questioning, who's the greatest among them. I can hear it now. Ke kathesis, and sitting down, ephonisa tus dodica, he called the 12. Ke legi aftis, and he says to them, Itis theli protos ine, if anyone wants to be first, este panton eschatos, he shall be last of all. Ke panton diakonos, and servant of all. And this is the condition. If you want to be first, then you'll be last and servant of all.